The City of London already moving in the direction of becoming a green financial centre. How does making climate reporting mandatory make that happen even faster? Companies and investors are already moving in that direction, driven by market forces.
Yeah. Well, taking a step back, I'm a huge believer in UK financial services. It's a significant part of the UK economy, obviously employs lots of people across the country, and importantly is something that we're globally best in class at. The announcements we made today, I think, cement that position. We want to remain one of the most open places to do business anywhere in the world. We want to be on the leading edge of technological adoption, and importantly, we want to be a leader in green finance. So today we announced we will be issuing a green sovereign bond for the first time next year, and being, I think, the first major economy to mandate the climate disclosures across the economy by 2025. I think taken together, it cements our position of wanting to be a global leader on these issues.
Okay, let's dig into that, because there's a lot in there already. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening with the gilt market. So we are going to see next year green gilts being issued. How is a regular gilt going to differ from a green gilt? Do you think that green gilt should have a yield premium, trade at a higher premium, for example, to regular gilts? And how will investors ensure that the promises that are made as part of those green gilts are actually delivered upon?
Yeah. Well, we've been watching this market for a while to make sure that it was the right thing to do. And I think what we've been now convinced of, looking at the market experience, is a couple of things. One is, obviously, we can make sure that the proceeds go to the areas and the types of things that people will expect them to. There's essentially an existing framework we can use to deploy, as other countries have for that. But to the point on pricing, I think what's clear looking at the market is what green gilts do is bring in a new class of investor as well. And we are now seeing repeated issuances of sovereign green bonds, which trade at tighter spreads to existing gilts, I think partly driven by different investors coming in. I think that's something we want to tap into. The other benefit of launching a sovereign curve is that it means that private companies then have the ability to piggyback on that, and it will help grow a private green market in the UK and give UK investors also access to more GBP denominated bonds, where currently they might have to invest in green bonds in different currencies. So I think there's a lot of other things that issuing the green sovereign bond will help catalyse.
But you think there will be a higher yield for a green bond, and do you think that spread will eventually compress down to virtually nothing?
Yeah, we'll have, markets are markets, and markets will price what they want to do. I think what we're seeing, the experience of other countries now, is that there are green issues that trade at a tighter spread. It's obviously going to vary as to where you are and what market demand is at the appropriate time. But that's something that we've been watching. But I think, as I said, the interesting thing is what else it catalyses. So once you can start creating that sovereign green bond market, that will help private participants also issue green bonds, make sure there's more GBP-oriented liquidity in that market. All of that is great for what we're trying to do here. What are we trying to do? We're trying to attract capital into funding projects that will help us meet our ambitions on net zero, and this will be an important part of that.
You talked about your desire to ensure that the City of London is strong. Let's talk a little bit about equivalence. You mentioned that a number of times in your statement. Let's talk about equivalence with the EU. Is equivalence with the EU now a nice to have rather than a must have?
I think what I've wanted to do is set out a vision for UK financial services. That's what I'm responsible for. And we have taken the view that we want to provide certainty and stability for participants in UK financial services, both here, both in the EU, and send a signal more generally across the world about our commitment to openness, transparency, and stability. So our approach on equivalence is to unilaterally have granted a whole range of equivalence decisions. We've also set out a framework for how we're going to approach these things in the future, and what people will see from that is a country that is determined to be open to the world. We want to remain a competitive and open place to do business. And with regard to how we will approach equivalence, we will do so not in a political way, but in a technical and outcomes-oriented way that also prioritises transparency and stability. And we're going to get on with that and ensure that London remains the preeminent global financial centre.
Listening to the financial regulators, though, there is frustration, clearly, that they are not getting communication from the other side. Are you frustrated that this process is not moving in a more transparent way?
Well, we've always tried to be as constructive as possible. We've provided literally thousands of pages of disclosures to the EU, who obviously have made equivalence decisions for other countries who weren't initially part of the single market. But obviously I can't control what the EU is going to do. I can control what happens in the UK, and the signal that people should see from today's actions is a country committed to openness when it comes to financial services, cementing our position as a place where people can do business from across the world, and maintaining our reputation for stability. I think all the actions we've taken today, as I said, will confirm that perception of the UK in global investors' minds.
So no frustration, no sense that this needs to happen. You're quite happy if it doesn't happen. You've done your part, but if the other side doesn't do theirs, that's okay.
Yeah, we've made a range of equivalence decisions today, but not all of them. There are some where it wouldn't be in our economic interest to do so, and others where we can't simply do them without cooperation from another regime. And we remain, as I've always said, we remain willing and would like to have those conversations, because if we can make more decisions, we'd like to be able to do that, and we remain open to having those constructive conversations.
Let me just ask you two quick questions, if I may. The first one relates to the vaccine news that we've had today from Pfizer. Stock markets soaring around the world, led by travel stocks. If we were to see a successful and early vaccine candidate being widely distributed, do you think that would change your calculation when it comes to the fiscal stimulus that the UK economy now needs, and maybe put ourselves in a situation where some of the fiscal stimulus that you provided and promised could be withdrawn earlier?
I think it's too early to speculate on what all this might mean in the longer or medium term, but it's clearly very welcome news, what we're hearing today. I think it also confirms that we were right as a country to go early in securing vaccine doses from a range of different providers, which will mean the UK population will be able to benefit from a vaccine when it hopefully becomes available. And also, it just shows that science is improving in our fight against coronavirus. Mass testing is something that we're also trying to pioneer in this country over the weekend in Liverpool. These types of interventions, whether it's testing, whether it's vaccines, whether it's therapeutics, dexamethasone, which the UK also helped bring to market, are all important tools in our fight against coronavirus.
The final quick question. We now look as if we're going to have a Joe Biden presidency in the United States. The Prime Minister asked about this over the weekend, talked about the fact that there is more that unites us than divides us. Do you worry that that calculation has now changed? The Prime Minister had a very close relationship with Donald Trump. Do you think this will make life difficult for the UK on the trade front? Do you think it will make a trade deal less likely?
No, I mean, first of all, enormous congratulations to President-elect Biden and Kamala Harris. As the dad of two little girls, I think fantastic to see first female vice president in the United States, for the signal that will send and the inspiration that it provides. And I agree with the PM. There's so much that unites our two countries. Obviously, it's a place that I've lived and worked for many years myself. Climate change is something I would put at the top of that list. The announcements I made today about the UK wanting to show global leadership and progress the climate change agenda when it comes to financial services. Hopefully that's something that we can work very closely on. It's something that President-elect Biden spoke about a lot during the campaign. So I remain very optimistic and excited about the relationship that we will have with the new administration.
Chancellor, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.